everybody. This is Richard Curtis, the author of The Client from Hell, as well as the other Creepery episodes, which I hope you've enjoyed. Um, we've just heard The Client from Hell, uh, uh, read by, performed by Steve Mecca, who performs a quadruple or quintuple role here. Um, he read it, he sound engineered it, he provided the sound effects, um, he provided the graphics, and so he's my absolute partner in this, and I think he's done a wonderful job. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
the origin of Client from Hell is it's one of the first short stories I ever wrote. It must be decades old, and and when I decided to produce some of my old stories and plays as podcasts, I delved into this one and thought it might be great fun to do. Um, and it's been through a number of it exists as an actual stage play. Um, so one day when we have something called stage, we'll perform it. We'll perform it that way, and that'll be great fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would be nice.
yeah. Well, there's nothing more absurd than the idea of a literary agent representing aliens. Okay, it struck me as so funny because when I wrote this, and remember, I am a literary agent. I have the misfortune of having that as my day job and profession. Um, but when I thought of it, it was because of the tremendous scramble in publishing to represent celebrities. Um, and so I just fantasized that I could probably beat all of my agent colleagues by representing the the ultimate celebrity, a spacefarer. So that was the genesis of the story, and it just makes me laugh to think how silly the premise is, and yet Steve, because when we discussed it, Steve asked me, "How do you want to play this?" And I mean, you can tell them what I suggested to you in terms of your delivery.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if at first I remember, I guess it's funny. It was months ago, so it's hard to recall every detail. But I do remember originally playing it very straight, as though this guy is in a bunker waiting for the world to end. He's got his little microphone on the table and his tape recorder, and he's just telling the story quickly before everything goes away. And then we ended up changing it a little bit, and I don't want to say hamming it up, but just making it a little bit more of a story you tell at a kitchen table rather than
Yeah,
in a
I
dank
think
dark
any
basement.
remnant of ham in this one can be attributed to me simply because I just like stuff over the top, and I felt, in addition to just narrating this, that Steve or the character named Stanley um, is scared to death. I mean, consider not just the responsibility of reporting this to the world, but the idea that it's all his fault for not having failed to adequately represent his client. Whoops. Okay. Hi, everybody. Again, I'm going to say again because we took a break between the morning when we started this and right now, early evening. Of course, early evening is pitch dark in the winter in New York City. Um, but we had to break off for uh, various reasons, and we're resuming today, which explains why the lighting is different. Steve is wearing different clothes, and all I can see is my reflection of my screen in my glasses, which means I think I'm going to take them off because I can't stand looking at myself. And I hope you can. This is what I look like without glasses. Um,
I like it. I like it.
all right. So what I thought our viewers slash listeners would like to be interested in is how something gets from a written script to a podcast to delivery of the podcast to an audience. Now, I have to tell you that I was a complete podcast virgin when I got involved in this. I wrote the scripts. I uh, contacted and engaged the actors, reached out to Steve, who is a first class sound engineer, and I had the whole team and recorded them and had a jolly good time. And then it occurred to me that I hadn't the slightest idea what to do next to get these things delivered to you, the listener slash reader. So, luckily, Steve had experience in this area um, and answered not only answered my questions, but put into effect all of the procedures that were necessary to convert the shows into a deliverable package. Um, so my first question was, okay, I put it up. Which company should I put it up with? Should I put up with Apple or Spotify? Which one is good? I had no idea.
Right.
And Steve basically said, you put it up with one company and they distribute to all of them. So, Steve, maybe would you explain that a little more in
Yeah.
detail?
Yeah. It's there's I mean anybody who's listened well in the podcast world, you have distributors and there are levels. So there are distributors like Anchor that you can record a podcast on your phone by talking into it, and it'll publish right from there. That's more of and they always have like some sort of free or entry level program. I know what we do is we have Libsyn, which stands for Liberated Syndication, and what they have is file hosting for all of our MP3s and any of the artwork and some of the videos like this right here. And once it's up, you could set it to publish right away, or you can schedule it to publish at a certain date and time, and you can choose which channels you want to publish to. So in our case, you know, right now Spotify isn't really doing a whole lot of video podcasts unless you have like millions of followers. So what I'll do for the videos is I will just go to Apple Podcasts and YouTube, and then drive whatever traffic for these discussions to the website rather than to the podcast, let's say. But
Right.
for the podcast, yeah, it's just it's as simple as just uploading the file and making sure that it's that everything is good, and you can change it if you need to. If like you hear something, maybe a character has changed, or maybe there's a line that needs to be changed, you can actually just swap out a new file in place of the one that was there, and you don't have to really worry about a whole like it's not like TV where once it's out there that's it. It's a lot more flexible in that way.
That's great. And so once we began uploading these into this company called Libsyn, this is not a commercial or a plug for Libsyn, but I have to tell you, they seem like a very solid company. They've done everything we've asked them to do. And after a couple of programs, I asked Steve, "How are we doing?" And he said, "Oh, you can go on their website and see how you're doing."
Yep.
So, you basically it's a uh, password directed website. You go in there and it shows you how many hits you've gotten, how many downloads, um, where you are, where people are listening, how many, what countries. So I asked you to take a couple of screenshots so that you can see how I'm tracking my performance. Now I've got to tell you something that, like like authors with their Amazon rankings, um, you can get pretty obsessive about these things, right? And you
I have it
start
on,
by
I have a hotkey on my phone. I check it like 5 times a day.
right. Well, 5 times a day is nothing, um, because once you start, um, you look in every when you have nothing else to do, which is often during this time of quarantine, and you see, oh, like somebody else just looked at me, and so I've tried to throttle back on my visits to the website.
Yeah,
But
it's a
maybe
challenge.
you can show us what
Yeah,
a typical. We have a couple of things that you might be interested in seeing,
sure.
things that
I'll
I
put up the
see when
screen
I
now.
go.
So that is
So the
this is
first thing you're looking at in uh, ascending order of the files that have been posted, you see uh, first the preview, then you see the actual performance, and then you see what I've been calling the postmortems. That's what we're doing right now, is these post um, performance discussions that seem to be registering rather agreeably, meaning that people are interested in the process. And the title of the file is on the left, and the number of hits is on the right. You'll see it's modest
right.
compared to some of the blockbuster uh, things that are there. I'm satisfied with it, um, and hopefully there'll be some traction as we go forward. Um, and so that's what I look at to see how am I doing. Then the next thing you're looking at um, is the graph of the various programs as they've been uploaded. And you'll notice that each spike represents
Oh,
the the release of one new program. The big spike, the Mount Everest that Steve is pointing to, was our double feature when we uploaded two programs at the same time. And that did very, very well. Um, and since that time, you can see we haven't done quite as well with the others. Um, Here's an interesting mountaintop over here, what you might call an extinct volcano that we're looking at. Um, the everything else up to now has been a spike, but here we had three uh, three numbers of visitors around the same number for 3 nights running. Um, that slope down the right side is what we've done so far today. So
right.
obviously it's kind of sloping off. But Steve, what did you make of this unusual display?
So we've been pushing the last episode, which is the episode before this, which was is it hot in here or is it me? And what I'm doing using right now I'm using Instagram ads just because we happen to have a small little following that we're building on there, and I decided to run an ad based on people who are interested in yoga. So if you haven't heard that episode yet, strongly recommend it. And you'll it's a very uncomfortable episode with a yoga teacher, creepy yoga teacher. So I targeted people who are into yoga, and we're getting a steady group of people coming out and checking it out, and hopefully we'll have to check over the weekend if they're subscribing or not, and then you can tell, and this is another version of that graph as well.
Right.
Same
And
list really.
what's that on the right we're looking at? The
This
bars on the
this
right.
is what these are the destinations that it's just a graph of the destinations that we have listed. So it's just the Libsyn Classic feed, which is these are all the plays from the website. Amazon podcasts. We have a little bit of Twitter action here. The podcast page, which, you know what, to be honest, I'm actually not too sure which URL that's. We have Google bot video. Okay. All right. So that must be the actual page on our website that hosts the podcast. And then we have our map.
My favorite one is this map. Um, Blue means a lot of activity, and white means minimal activity. But if you run the cursor over each country, you can see how we're doing. Run it over the United States. Obviously, that's blue because that's a map I haven't seen. Well, I have to become obsessed with that map now.
Well, this is what I'm using now to further target, because the ones that are dark have no listeners at all. And now what I'm doing is literally typing in each state. Actually, down here, I'm if I show all of these, I will type in each city here or town and target them much closer and more specifically. That way we can get the biggest bang for our buck when we put out sponsored ads.
Right. Go back to the world map for a moment, if you would.
Sure.
So the blue, including Alaska, indicates the United States, and obviously that is where we're getting by far the majority of our hits. In Canada, that great big space is only giving us, I can't read it, but not a
It's
lot.
just at 5.
Right.
Just 5.
And then
Yeah.
in Europe, you know, we've got, for some reason, the Irish like the Creepery. God bless you, Ireland. We have England, which is doing okay. Germany, they like us in Germany. And Romania, I think we have one visitor.
Yeah.
Argentina, one visitor. I see somebody in North Africa that paid us a visit. That's a new one on me. Who's that?
Libya.
Libya. Hello, Libya. And then in the Far East, we have Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand, excuse me. I learned geography. I never knew.
Right.
I never knew New Zealand was there. I thought it was somewhere else. So you live and learn. But
Oh yeah.
hopefully, as time goes by and word spreads about how wonderful we are, some of these white places will turn blue, and
Indeed.
more places will appear. I mean, look at Russia. We're ready. We're ready to exploit Russia. Okay, it's time for us to exploit them after all the exploiting of us that they've done. So that kind of will give you, the viewer, listener, an idea of just what is happening when I, or maybe it's you, post a podcast and you want to track its performance. And it also, of course, helps Steve to analyze where we are weak, where we could use more effort or cultivation or promotion. Also, Steve sometimes will concentrate on a theme. For instance, you know, this play we're doing it takes place in the yoga studio, so he's targeting people who are interested in yoga.
Right.
And so, you know, a lot of this is live and learn, but it's all quite fascinating to me, and I hope it has been so to you. So we will look forward to seeing you at the next postmortem. And I thank you, Steve, for doing this and for your help.
My pleasure.
And
been a ride. It's not over yet. We got one more.
Not well, we do, and actually we have two more, don't we?
Well, I think we're recording this one. Technically, at this time that we're recording this, we have two more.
Yes, of course. I'm always one behind. That'll show you kind of where I am in life as well as on podcast.
It's kind of like time travel.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.